We are starting to ramp up again. I know it sounds insane for the next election, the 2016 presidential election. Of course, there will be senators, members of Congress, all sorts of elections happening. And back in July of 2012, right before the 2012 election where Mitt Romney lost, Buchanan, the famed political advisor, conservative political strategist, former treasurer of the United States, was on the show to talk about the 2012 election and Mitt Romney. I want to go back to this interview because I want to remind everybody about the type of completely disjointed and disconnected from logic campaign statements that start up. And sometimes I even forget about it. When we're not right in a campaign season, you see strategists be way more reasonable. And I was reminded the other day, because of something I read about this interview with Buchanan, where she was just making absolutely no sense with anything she said, going completely out of her way, grasping at straws to defend Mitt Romney and his business credentials as a good reason for why he should be president. So let's go back to this interview from July of 2012. Prepare yourselves for this type of thing with the next election that's coming up. Welcome back to the David Pakman Show. Joining me is Buchanan, conservative political strategist, former treasurer of the United States. The new book is Bay and Her Boys, Unexpected Lessons I Learned as a Single Mom. Bay, you're advising Mitt Romney. Let's talk about, initially, why do you endorse him?
Well, there was a couple, actually 4 years ago, I endorsed him because I was with Tom Tancredo. I thought that immigration issue was key. I thought I knew McCain was terrible. And so I met with Governor Romney to see what his position was on immigration and to get a sense for the kind of person he was. And I endorsed him then. I traveled to New Hampshire for him. I got to know him very well. Very, very impressed with him. And on those key issues, as we looked into 2012, the key issues facing the country, clearly we need someone who really has an understanding of how to run an economy, how to put people to work, how to help businesses grow, what kind of national or federal policies you need. So you create that kind of environment. I'm devastated by the millions of people who are under or unemployed in this country and facing very, very tough times. And so I thought, okay, the first thing we need is somebody who not only is informed and understands the issue, but has that kind of toughness, that determination to say, listen, this company is going to get turned around and I'm going to do it. I don't care what it takes. And he doesn't have ties to Washington. So I felt that Mitt Romney was, without question, the best person for the country at this time. I know he's strong on the social issues, very close to my heart. He is solid pro-life. I am absolutely certain of that.
All right, now let's hold on. There's so much there that we have to talk about. So let's see if I can let's take it a step at a time here. So number one, on the issue of he has the right ideas for federal policy. Now, to me, the biggest accomplishment he had as governor of Massachusetts, the health care bill that he passed, he's had to completely disavow at the federal level, and has been very clear it wouldn't work at the federal level. He's actually had difficulty distancing himself from the idea that it would work federally. So specifically, what federal policy can we point to that indicates he would have good ideas there?
All right, well, first of all, he's a guy that goes into a business and looks at the whole thing and assesses it, and he's done this extremely well over the years, been very, very successful at turning around companies. So he understands sometimes you have to make this tough decisions and shut down some arm of that company or turn this around or make people more efficient. Whatever you had to do, he has been enormously successful too. When he went over as governor, I think you're wrong as to his greatest accomplishment in Massachusetts. He took over a government that was facing a huge deficit, and the last in line for number of jobs created, number 50. And in 4 years, he not only turned that state around economically, they moved him up to about, I think it was about 27th in job creation, little state of Massachusetts.
No, it was 48th, actually. It wasn't good.
No, that is not correct. That is something the Obama people are putting out. It is absolutely inaccurate. In fact, no state was able to jump as many notches up as Massachusetts in those 4 years. What the Obama people have done is averaged the 4 years. But if you look at where it was when he took over and where it was when he ended, it is clear success story. In addition, he balanced the budget, left them with a surplus, did it without increasing taxes. In fact,
let's talk about that, though.
Taxed 19 times.
Yeah, you know what's incredible to me about the he didn't raise taxes thing? I live in Massachusetts, so I experienced this firsthand. The exact same way through which he was able to raise revenue without raising taxes, which is by penalties and fees, is the exact same thing he's trying to play the other side of the ballgame on the Obamacare mandate, whether it's a tax or whether it's a penalty/fee. Fees and penalties everywhere in Massachusetts, and I paid them, went way, way up. So it's silly to say that by not calling it a tax, he didn't actually increase fees, taxes, etc. It's kind of a semantic game.
Well, no, it is not if, and I don't know the case for every single fee up there.
Yeah.
But I was in the Reagan administration,
Right.
and I was in the Department of Treasury, and I was young. I was the U.S. Treasurer, and so I really made an effort to learn as much as I could about the economy, and sat down with a lot of the supply siders, and they explained to me. Norman Ture, just a wonderful man, and was the undersecretary, and he explained that there are certain things that conservatives support. So in other words, if we're using the roads, we should pay for the roads. So there's a certain portion, unfortunately not all. You know, when you have a tax on gas, if it's going right to the roads, that's something we would support. Like if you go out to a national park, and I use the national park, you have to pay a fee to get into the national park. That makes sense. That is something conservatives accept because, you know, we're using it. So we should be paying something that's a direct user fee, if you like. And in that regard, and as I said, I don't know all of the things that were called fees up in Massachusetts, but in that regard, that's something conservatives do support. And now, unlike the Obamacare, which has 21 taxes in it, you know, and in fairness, no conservatives was calling it a tax until our Supreme Court justice decided that that's what it was.
Yeah, but in the discussion about Romney in Massachusetts, I mean, for example, not raising the excise tax rate, but raising the renewal for your car registration by $60, it's essentially the same thing. Money's going the same place. You're just calling it a fee rather than a tax. Same thing we're seeing with Obamacare. It's a little bit wishy-washy. I don't know that that's the strongest case to make as a Romney supporter for you.
Well, I do know without question he cut taxes 19 times. Now, did he raise taxes some other times?
Of course.
You know, I do know that there was cutting taxes. He obviously was able to get control of the spending to line it up with the income, because as a result, he balanced the budget and left a surplus. That's something I would like to see on the federal level. I think he's shown experience both in the private sector and in the public sector, that he is tough enough to do the job that needed to get done so that you have a strong economy in the state of Massachusetts, or a business has a strong, you know, economic basis to continue to grow. And I hope that he's able to do that on the federal level so America can get back to work.
Well, let's talk about the Bain experience, which you alluded to. So much is going on, and I know we have limited time, but a few different things I want to touch on. Number one, he has made his business experience kind of like the paramount achievement on which we should decide whether he would or wouldn't be a good president. He says he would be a good president as a result of his experience at Bain. What other presidents in history can we point to where coming exclusively with business experience ended up being good presidents? Who would you point to?
Well, you know, I think the key is I would point to the president who's there now. He has never been in business. He has never met a payroll, and he has no knowledge, never owned a business, is clueless as to how it's done, and doesn't respect those who have done it. And
how is that hurting him?
And I think as a result of that, we today, unlike other times in our history, are facing terrible economic times. I mean, a crisis is not to exaggerate the situation.
No, I understand, Babe, but we're switching topics here. We're switching topics. You're saying Obama...
A guy who has no knowledge of business, doesn't have a clue as to how it's working. He established his policies that take us from a recession that he inherited and gives us a weak, anemic, jobless
recovery. Okay, but Babe.
It falls right back into a recession we're looking at now.
I respect what you're doing. I respect what you're doing. You're pivoting from my question about Romney into talking about Obama talking points. But hold on a second, Babe. Hold on a second.
You can ask whatever questions you want, but the key is...
And you can answer them however you want. I understand. You're pivoting.
Relevant today. And relevant today is not when Eisenhower, who had no business experience, only military, took over, and look what happened.
But let me just try it once more.
Somebody with that.
Okay, let me try it once more. Forgetting about Barack Obama for a second. Mitt Romney says, and many of his supporters agree, that someone with so-called business experience is uniquely and particularly well qualified to be president.
At this time.
What can we point to in history that would suggest that coming from business experience makes you a good president? And if we can't point to anything because this time is so unique, we really have no evidence. It's just a guess, right?
No. This is, you can look all at history, but we got two choices here.
Okay.
That's what it's down to. And in the primary, I supported him because there's another aspect of his. First of all, you have to understand how it's done. You have to have a appreciation for what makes an economy work, what's healthy for them out there in the middle America. How does that? What can we do to make their companies thrive so they can start hiring again? Okay.
But so we have no actual evidence that that's good.
The second thing is, the second thing is this. We need somebody who will actually do it. Because so many of these politicians are stuck here in this town for too many years, have too many friends. So when it comes time to chop the interior department or the agricultural department or education, oh, my friend here, my friend there, Joe's district, that would hurt him. And then they can't come to grips with it. They start taking care of their friends. And that's what happens. Even some of our friends, I might
add. But even this idea that you're alluding...
He does not have those ties, David. He doesn't have any of those ties.
Yeah, but you know what?
It's in spite. He is focused on turning around companies or states or the Olympics, and he will be focused on turning our economy around, which is all what his whole background is everything he's learned.
Yeah.
I cannot be anybody better prepared to be president of the United States at this time.
Okay. This whole idea that he's a Washington outsider, if he's a Washington outsider, it's because he lost an election in 1994. He wanted to be a Washington insider. But let's put that aside.
You become an insider by living here and gaining all these friends. Just because he lost an election,
he doesn't have any Washington friends.
He is an insider, but because he might have been. Come on, David, let's use the census. The man does not have the ties to this town that all of those other candidates in the primary did, or most all of them.
He gets his money from all the same people that the so-called insiders do. There's no difference. It's indistinguishable.
No, well,
money is totally fungible. Whether he's an insider or outsider, it comes from the Koch brothers. It comes from all the same people. What's the difference?
No, I'll tell you what the difference is because you get in that Senate, you get in the House, and you become compromised in some manner or another.
Okay.
You explain to me how it is that conservative House, a conservative Senate, and a so-called conservative president gave us the largest entitlement since LBJ. Now, you explain how that happens if indeed they stand on principle when they get here. I say they get co-opted. They feel they have to keep the leadership and the party happy.
All right.
Mitt Romney doesn't have any of those ties. When he comes here, he's got one thing in mind: cut the spending down to some reasonable percent of the GDP, back to the 20%. That's what he will do. He's not going to worry about who it offends.
All right. Well, I wanted to get into all of the details of the Bain stuff, including also Mitt Romney's outsourcing of the Olympic uniforms to Burma, even though now he's criticizing the current outsourcing to China. But unfortunately, we've gone over our time. I really do want to have you back, though, Bay. And let me mention again, the book is Bay and Her Boys: Unexpected Lessons I Learned as a Single Mom. Bay Buchanan. We don't agree on the politics, but it's really great to talk to you.
I just have to ask, David, you voting for Obama? Because there ain't any other choices.
I'm voting for President Obama. Given the two choices between Romney and Obama, I'm voting for Obama. Absolutely.
Okay, well, he has already failed us, so we know what direction he's taken the nation.
Okay, Bay. Thank you very much for the interview.
All right. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.